think we'll get started so that we can make sure we use the most of our time. So thanks everybody for joining today. My name is Limor Finkel. I'm the Customer Success Manager at Andavi Solutions, where we are charged with transforming transactional data into actionable intelligence. It's to help folks like you make informed decisions to sell more effectively. We are very excited to be continuing our Industry Connect webinar series with the first of a three-part deep dive into Tradeparency. Today, we're kicking off the series with a look into our topic, Unleashing the Power of Precision Pricing. So this panel is going to discuss how Tradeparency empowers you to effectively manage diverse factors, such as FOB costs, freight charges, taxes, and distributor and retail margins. Andrew, if you don't mind switching to the next slide. Great. Our goal is that you're left feeling empowered with how to ensure maximum profitability while maintaining fairness in your operations. Leading the discussion are two of Andavi's leading experts on Tradeparency. We've got the wonderful Tracy Layton. She's the Senior Director of Product and Development, and Andrew Tierce. He's a technical consultant, but really he is a Tradeparency wizard. That's his real title. But before we jump into today's discussion, I just want to review a few housekeeping items. One, we're going to keep everyone's mics muted during the webinar today, but we want to encourage your participation by asking questions. So please use the Zoom Q&A feature to write down your questions, and you have the option to do anonymously or publicly. We're going to allow some time at the end for more questions. So if anything comes up, we'll cover them at the end. Two, we're recording this webinar, and we're going to send registrants a link to the recording to watch the replay in a few days. And we're also going to be sending a survey. There's going to be a survey that'll pop up at the end. And we do encourage if you have an extra moment or two to fill out that survey. And lastly, as I mentioned, this is part of our ongoing Industry Connect webinar series and the first of our three-part series that focuses on Tradeparency. We encourage you to participate in the whole webinar series as we're going to be covering critical topics that are specific to the beverage alcohol industry. Hopefully, we'll leave today's discussion with actionable insights to have full control and visibility of your trade spending. All right, I'm done talking for a little while. So without further ado, I'd like to pass the mic over to Tracy and Andrew to dive into precision pricing.
Thanks so much, Limor. I really appreciate you setting all this up and making it available for us. Thanks everyone for coming today. Andrew and I are going to trade roles here a little bit back and forth to give you some visibility into the product and focus specifically on pricing and deal creation with this webinar. Tradeparency became part of the Andavi suite of products for BevAlc suppliers when we acquired its parent company a couple years ago. Since then, Andrew, I, and the rest of the Tradeparency team have been on a mission to grow the product. We want to make it more sustainable and able to scale along with our supplier partner needs over time. So I think over the next 3 webinars, you will see some exciting new pieces if you're already using Tradeparency or have looked at it before, as well as if you're brand new to the product, we'll give you a lens into how Tradeparency works and how it is a piece of our overall trade promotion management functionality. But this series is meant to give you an in-depth view as to why Tradeparency is the best tool on the market, and we believe it to be true, and we've seen it in action. Strategic pricing is one of the most important components to your world as a BevAlc supplier. And we believe that being strategic with our tool can prevent unnecessary margin loss across the board to wholesalers or retailers when you're aiming to stay competitive on the shelf with your prices. And we know that managing deals in spreadsheets can function, but it doesn't necessarily work. So we'll show you some ways that we can have it all in one place. So everyone in your company has one place to go, whether they're in sales, deal management, or inventory or invoice management and finance. So the questions that we all ask when we're part of the industry, which all of us come from in one way or another here, working with Tradeparency, are the deals in place? Are they set for the right targets? Are we working to the right margins? Those are all questions that Tradeparency can answer. Most importantly, what we truly know to be true is that Tradeparency is the only software that lets you as the supplier be in control of the deals that you give to your distributors and retail partners. So we're going to show you some of that in action today. We're going to focus on those pricing considerations and deal creation. As I mentioned in the second webinar, we will focus on the claim settlement and analytics. And then the third webinar will give you an overall deep dive into the product and the ability for you to ask some questions. So with that, Andrew, I think we should get started and take them into the product and take a look at some of the deal management. What do you think?
Sure, absolutely. I'm ready to
Okay,
rock.
great.
So where I wanted to start off the discussion today was how a typical conversation around setting up a new deal with a distributor partner might work. In the past, a rep out in the field might have a spreadsheet in front of them, might have written notes even, might have, wanted to be talking about a specific product and a specific distributor partner. So with Tradeparency, you're allowed to not only select a specific product. In this case, we're using some demo data, of course, a Yosemite Napa Valley cab, some 750 12 pack. For the case of this example, we have a $280 case price on that with a $36 suggested retail. That's kind of just the list price where the conversation begins. But as you all know, having the right price on the product on the shelf is really what it's all about. And in this case, we've decided that what we want this product to be on the shelf at is this $29.99 price. So starting out this conversation, we can use the tool to pull up the specifics about this particular product. This is a $200 FOB. The laid-in cost is at $206.62. That has freight and taxes kind of built into that with the state that we're talking about, in this case, Arizona. So we decided we want that on the shelf for $29.99. That leaves us a little bit wanting on the margins, right? The retailer's only getting 22 in this example. The distributor's really only getting 26. We know, right, for being in the business that these margins really aren't going to work, right? So the next step is to kind of work down the list and to set that retailer margin at 25%. The system's going to allow you to do that by calculating a new price to retailer to the penny at $269.88. We also know that the distributor is not going to be happy when we take the price to retailer down. Of course, that reduces the distributor margin. So we want to have the ability for the distributor to still feel like this deal is valuable to them, right? And we all know what that means, right? It's offering a DA on this deal to be able to not only get ensure the margins for this distributor partner, but also allow us to hit that shelf price. And so what the tool does is it allows you to calculate that to the penny by setting the distributor margin at 30%. That comes out to a $17.70 DA. One thing that's great to note about the software is that a lot of times in the past, DAs are generally thought of as they're generally round numbers, $5, $10, $20, whatever the rounded amount might be. Because a lot of times the level of complexity with freight and taxes and the exact calculations of what the numbers are going to be might not have been at hand, right? So with the tool, it allows you to have all of that information in one place and allows you to calculate that DA to the penny. Generally, in a lot of cases, saving you, the supplier, a few dollars on every one of those transactions. And we all know after thousands of cases, this can really, really add up. What it allows you to do also is to see the deals side by side as you're working through deals. You can start over, you can run another product, you can see them as they change, and you can really pick the right one that's that's right for you. And it allows you to have multiple, right, as in the same product for the same distributor. So you can incorporate all of your entire pricing strategy. The next screen is going to be what we call the deal screen, right? So this is after we've created the deal from the calculator during this typical conversation. This is what it looks like at the detailed level. So it's going to have all of the product information FOB laid in that we saw before, along with the DAs and the price to retailer that we calculated in the deal. As you can see here, we also take care of the oddball states, right, that have SPAs or maybe free goods. We can have qualified costs, so we can take care of pesky New Jersey with RIPS. You can, you put in your deal description here. We have fully customizable deal types, whether that's national account deal types or other types of deals. And those margins, as we saw on the deal calculator screen, are preserved in the bottom, right? So you can see that 30% that we work to on the distributor margin and that 25% that we work to on the retailer margin. One of the
Andrew,
neatest
if I
features.
can just jump in real quick.
Sure.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but my brain is there's all sorts of bells going off in my brain right now, because as someone who worked in national sales and as a regional regional manager prior to joining Ondavi, the amount of hours that a calculator like this would have saved my life. And I know you can't relate them, but the gray hairs that I would have saved had I had a calculator. I didn't have to go into an Excel spreadsheet that was maybe 8 iterations old. I mean, this is incredibly powerful. Just being able to play around with margin and see what things would have looked like, the what if scenario to retailers, to the distributor. This is just awesome. So thank you for showing us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really the most powerful part is really having that all at your fingertips, being able to factor in freight, being able to factor in taxes, be able to grab the most updated FOB. And with those costs, you can even, if the freight is changing on a certain date, right? The date that you create the deal is going to have the accurate freight for that date. So if you factored in, hey, we've created a freight 6 months down the line that's going to go up by $1. If you're making a deal that's valid for that time, it'll be reflected with the correct price as well. So all of that, having to look up and make sure the right information is at your fingertips to make the right decision, is gone. So it's just everything's right at your fingertips. So one thing I did want to mention, there's a little part of this screen over here that says percentage of business, right? And when I mentioned an entire gamut, right, of pricing strategy for one particular product before, the reality is there's going to be several deal levels. Maybe there's a 3 case, maybe there's a BTG, maybe there's a deep discount national retailer level, just other, we can basically, there's not a limit, right? There's a limit in terms of what's good strategy, but there's no limit in terms of the system of how many deals you have in the overall pricing strategy. And so when you start to think about budgets, right, and there's going to be X number of cases available of a wine, we can say that, historically, Arizona is going to get a certain number of those cases. When you think about percentage of business, what that is okay, at this 2 case BTG, let's just say, by the glass deal that we're talking about, how many of the cases that Arizona typically gets, what percentage of those is going to go to this deal, right? And if it's a $17.70 DA, you can really start to get ahead of what is going to be the actual overall spend needed to run this promotion, right?
I actually think we have a screen that you could show some of this on. I think it's 2 ahead of here, Andrew, if you wanted to get into the percent of business a little bit more.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I'll run back to the one before
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
So when you're changing your percentage of business in the system, you can see the deal we just created. And we didn't put a description in the screen, but this is the one that we just created. So you can see in this case, there's only 2 deals. We just said, hey, 50-50 for now, right? As you're working with Tradeparency over time, you will adjust these, right? As you see cases flow into those particular deals. It just really helps you nail in what those budgets are going to be.
Sure. I think when we're talking about the percent of business, right, what this is enabling is an opportunity to not only look at what you've set for your goals by volume, but also where those striations are going to be over time. Like we're just running into O&D. So we know that you might not actually have your deals equal throughout all of these months. But
Right.
this gives you the opportunity to look at what you're doing with each of those deals, how much of your business is going to go to each of those deals. And if you want, I think you can even load in frontline, right, Andrew, so that you can
Absolutely.
just see the entire picture here. And it
Absolutely.
gives you that sense. And then I think, one of the powerful things I see is when we take this into a visualization tool, and then you can see over time and even start to evaluate what you want to do for your goals for next year based on your actuals. So just the power of strategic pricing is exponential when you get here.
A-
So I appreciate you
Absolutely.
bringing it up. I think it's one of the most powerful parts of the tool, and it's not necessarily something everybody thinks to use.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Some of our clients use it more than others, and I think the ones that do really get a lot of insight into what their programs are really doing,
Yeah,
in
yeah,
terms of
no, I
lift for
agree.
their business.
I
Um,
absolutely agree. And you can set that right at the deal level, so it's easy to do. And so when you're doing the initial load, it can just be all there, but you can also adjust on a screen like this over time. So I think that's
Absolutely.
useful.
One thing to note here, some deals aren't for the whole year, right? Like we maybe
Mhm.
have a deal that's only active for 3 or 4 months. The system can handle those pulse deals very easily, and incorporate that directly into your percentage of business as well. So,
So that's
um,
great.
And
I know
Andrew,
I made you miss a slide to show this, so I think you had something else to go back to. Sorry, Lamore. Didn't mean to interrupt you there.
no, I just wanted to know what happens if there's a price increase during the year, since we know that that unfortunately does happen. Can Tradeparency handle that?
Yeah, one of the great things is when you do take a price increase, an FOB increase, what the system will automatically do is say, hey, these deals are linked to this FOB. What do you want to do? Do you want to split that deal at the time change and create new deals going forward, or do you want to keep the same deals? It lets you review those in a very easy, quick way. It's something that actually people think, oh, this system might be hard because I've got all these deals set up. We want to change, we're going to take a price increase. Do I have to redo everything? Do I have to reload everything? The answer is no, right? There's a very nice, concise process inside the app to be able to take care of. That's a great question. Um, Tracy, you mentioned before,
Mhm.
um, kind of looking at all of the deals. So I think
Right.
that's what we want to go back to here to
Yeah.
kind of look through.
Yeah, because I think management of the deals is overall one of the things that we struggle with, right? I know, at least coming from my background when it was all in Excel sheets, how do you look at all the deals in one place at one time? You're going from sheet to sheet to sheet and trying to make sure that everything is coalesced, and you don't actually even know if the dates are accurate, right? So I was curious to have you show how we manage that so that that is the one-stop shop part.
Right, right, absolutely. So this is our deal screen, the major deal. Not we didn't get really creative with the naming of this area of the site or anything. Didn't want to confuse anybody, but this allows you to look at based on your permission levels, right? So RMs can see different things that national sales managers can see, different things that people working in accounting can see. So if somebody that was the regional manager for, say, Arizona, and I had this filtered to Arizona. We were talking about Arizona before. You can see all of the products for that entire state. Now, you can have multiple distributors in a state, and some 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 suppliers choose to do that, right? Maybe the state's broken up into areas like California or New York,
Or
or maybe
Tennessee.
there's just like
Yeah,
or like Texas, right?
right.
Is a very common as well. So this allows you to basically filter all of these deals basically any way you want, right? There's every filters on here, whether that's region, whether that's brand, whether that's varietal, um, or label code, product groups, bottle sizes. So if you wanted to, basically any way that you wanted to look at deals. One thing you can filter by description as well. And so when you're entering descriptions, it's good to have some kind of common thing in the description, whether that's BTG. This is also can be a deal type. So there's lots of different ways to look at the deals. If you're getting ahead of the year, you can also change the active year. And this view is customizable in terms of what columns are on here for each individual user. So if a user is used to seeing only 3 or 4 or 5 columns that are important to them, they can save their own view, and that can be different than anybody else that logs in.
I really like that. And the fact that you can filter right there, it means that anyone can come in and look at the deals that they need to. So if I need to look at what's valid in Arkansas right now or what's going to come up next in Nevada, that's the screen that I can do it at regardless of my role in the company. So I really like that. Thanks for sharing that piece.
Yeah. So one of the things that's a challenge with the spreadsheet, a strategy, right, is, well,
Yeah.
how do we communicate that information
Sure.
with the distributor, right? Because every deal is not brand new, right? In the scenario we already looked at, that this is a brand new deal, right? And this is a deal that we just created. But as we all know, there's already active deals out there, right? And part of implementing Tradeparency is inputting all of those deals into the system. So now that we have them all in the system, everything is accurate in terms of FOB, list, freight, taxes. How do we go about then communicating that information without having the spreadsheet, right? So Tradeparency gives you a couple great ways to do that. The first one that we're going to go through is what we call the price grid, right? That's a very common terminology for suppliers already. That's probably the words that folks use to describe their current Excel sheets. And as we all know, maybe they're streamlined, maybe they're not. Maybe they're Excel 97 copies, right, that have been saved a bunch of times.
Sure.
Lots.
We've all had those, right? We've all had them either break or disappear with a laptop or leave with a person in a laptop. We've had problems like that all the time. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Maybe somebody took the password and they locked it. Now you can't edit it.
Painful. Yeah.
It definitely happens. So the good thing about putting everything into one place, right? A single source of truth. We've always all heard that before. Not only that, but Tradeparency allows you, with the click of a button, to output your pricing for a particular distributor into an Excel sheet. It generates this, Excel sheet in a standardized way with your own brand logo, added to the top, and it has full information, whether that's on the supplier side, on the distributor side, or on the retailer side. It's going to show you all your margins, all of your costs, your net revenues, any DAs you have set up, any free goods you have set up, the distributor net cost, all of the margins on each of the particular deals. The way that the grid's set up is it's meant to be read left to right, so that list price is the first column, and then each deal appears in a column then to the right. And it gives you a single product per tab in the price grid. So it's a very detailed view, has a lot of information about the deals. It can be great to go over to see all the complexities, right, of all the different products and all of the different deals. But sometimes you just want to communicate, hey, what's the PTR, what's the DA on what particular month? So what we did is we added a second way to communicate that information automatically with what we call the PTR DA calendar. And this
PTR stands for?
Oh, price to retailer, excuse me.
Price to retailer. Got it. Thanks.
So this allows you to just, at a glance, if you have pulse deals, this is particularly useful, right? Because you can see exactly when the deals are active, right? And if a deal is on or off on a particular month, what that pattern is it 3 on, 3 off? But this shows you on one single tab all of the products for a single distributor, all of the deal descriptions. Again, those deal types, those are customizable for each client, and then what that retail price is and what that DA is for each month. So a really quick, yeah.
Sorry about that. Just my
Your connection's a little bad, Lamore, unfortunately. So I think we're missing what you're saying right now. I don't know if you're connecting there. So
Yeah,
we'll get back to your question in a minute.
an internet outage there. Um,
Perfect timing.
right, exactly. Um, but these can be downloaded at any time. So,
Fascinating. Okay.
any person with their, depending on their user group,
Right.
right, will have access to generate these at any time. And
Mhm.
they're given, the ability to pick the date in which they're generated from. So if you wanted to pull your grids starting in 25 for next year, you can do that. You want to start them as of today, you can do that. We have this concept of an as of date to be able to get all the information, to pull all the correct pertinent information. For your example, Lemore, if you have a price increase later on in the year that you've already got set up and you want to pull, you know, that pricing after that price increase, for
That makes
example.
a lot of sense. And I think it makes the monthly meeting with your distributor that much more powerful. Combine this in some visualization tools with your sales data, and you've got a complete story of where their focus should be and where it needs to be ramped up. So I think
Absolutely.
there's a lot there that we can do. This has been great. I'm sure y'all in the audience have some questions. Lamore, I know, is struggling with a little bit of internet issue right now, so I'm just gonna say, pop your questions in there. If you'd like to have us answer any of those. I think the pricing structure here does show that we're putting everything in the hands of the supplier to make the decisions that are best for them, and that it can be done on multiple levels. So this has been super enlightening in terms of just how that module works together. And it is only one module of the tool, right? We've got others to show in the coming webinars, so it'll be
Absolutely.
fun to see
Absolutely.
where else it goes.
We all know the fun part is then to audit your distributors to see if they're charging you the right amount, which is what we're going to talk about in the next one. So,
Oh, cool. That'll be fun. That'll be a lot of fun. I think I get to be there with you too, so it'll be good to have the team back together for that one. Um, Anything else for us to chat about here, or you want me to wrap things up for us, Andrew? What do you
no,
think?
I think we're good.
Okay.
Honestly, just it's unbelievably powerful to have everything in one spot. We
First.
have anecdotal anecdotally one client that's got over 50,000 deals in the system. They have a really complex portfolio with a lot of deal levels. We've got clients pushing upwards of 30 to 50 million dollars through the system, a year, realizing savings
Wow.
on all of those DAs. So
Yeah,
um, it's really a powerful thing when it all comes together.
I agree. I agree. So we definitely focused on the pricing piece today, pricing considerations and deal creations. I think we got you all the information that we committed to in terms of creating those deals automatically. The one place I don't know that we spent a lot of time on was on how those deals come into play if you're doing a lot of planning. So the only piece that I'll add in there that we'll show you live in the demo next time is that we do have multiple ways of doing approval processes. And those approval processes can be automated to a certain extent depending on the logic that you're using. Some of the more complex pieces will probably still need to, and larger dollar items probably will still need to be approved by a human being. But some of our clients have approval at the regional sales manager up to the national sales manager, and then to different levels of finance. Any complexity like that can be handled by the tool. Am I missing anything there, Andrew, when we're talking about
No,
approvals?
no, yeah,
Okay.
it's a great point. Thank you for making it. You can set automatic approvals, whether that's at a anything under a certain DA amount or certain percent off of a list price, any of those kind of mathematical,
Mhm.
or any DA at all requires an approval just
Right.
based on the choice of the supplier and based on
Awesome.
those approval levels.
That's
Great
great.
point.
That's definitely a good point, a good part of the tool as well. So today we focused on number 2 and number 3. That's why those are green. We've talked about those. Our next webinar, we're going to focus on number 4 and get into number 5 a little bit. And then we're going to roll it all together and show you all 5 pieces as they come into play when we do the end-to-end in the third webinar. That is everything that we had planned for today. We didn't want to take up too much of your time, but we do have opportunity for questions. Lamore, is there anything in the queue?
There is, and sorry about that.
Okay.
Of course, my internet went out as soon as I started talking.
Of course, especially when we're on recording and all of that. That's when it happens, right?
Of
It
course.
had to happen to one of the three of us. So,
And listen, I mean, that's the thing with using software. Sometimes it glitches, but ours shouldn't.
agreed.
So the
Agreed.
question that came in was, what if I have multiple deals for the same product? What happens then, Andrew?
Oh,
Yeah,
great
so
question.
yeah, it's so part of pricing strategy is to really concentrate on multiple levels, right? Like we all know there's a list price that's going to be just the normal price. Maybe there's, a two case, maybe there's a by the glass that's for off-prem, for on-prem only. Maybe you have a deep discount in a national retailer like Kroger Group or Costco or something like that, and you really only want to offer that deep of a discount for one of your big national partners. Tradeparency can handle all of those scenarios and even allow you to, as I said, to use that percentage of business to to plan on pushing a certain percentage of your case volume into those, so you can kind of see ahead of time, what those programs, with those discounts are going to cost you as a company, and see if it's worth the lift, right? To be able to do that
Absolutely.
analysis.
Absolutely. And I wonder, does that plays in the same framework in terms of chains, and when you're dealing with it, we can look at it at multiple levels for from state to state with different FOBs and the like. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
absolutely. And even if a chain is, say, say there's a deal that's to a national chain, that is
Mhm.
in multiple states, so it's going to operate
Mhm.
across distributors. So there's going to be a little bit different in the laid in, right? Because of each state's particular freight or taxes, but the
Sure.
discount levels are going to be the same. The system allows you to handle that through the use of national account deal types, which is again fully customizable. You can be able to use certain states. If it's only a south, like say if it's Publix, right, only in the
Mhm.
southeast, you can only use, you could set it up where this deal is only available Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Alabama, Florida, that kind of thing, for example. It's a really powerful way to be able to categorize the deals. Again, that's fully customizable, and a deal can be multiple types. Like if you have a $10 FOB on not only your 3 case but also your by the glass, it can be a 3 case off-prem. At the same time, it
Right.
can be a 3 case BTG. So
Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense.
And that did
Cool.
answer another question that came in. So way to go.
Oh,
Um,
okay, great. Was that question about national accounts?
it was, but yep,
Okay,
exactly.
all right, great, good.
Um,
Well, let us know if there's any follow-up there.
and then the last question was about reporting. So what
Mhm.
reporting is included with Tradeparency?
So, Tradeparency, the two reports that we saw today were your pricing grid and your PTR DA calendar. On top of that, on the front home screen, you're going to be able to see a results driven kind of 4 quadrant grid of some basically at a glance
Cool.
reporting.
Mhm.
Um, uh, it's going to be by product, by discount bucket, by state, blended together among all products. That's kind of my favorite of the 4 graphs. It shows you, okay, in Georgia, we have 15 products in the portfolio. There's maybe 6 or 8 or 10 different deals for each product. That's a lot of different discounts going on. Based on that, what is the actual cost of selling a case of our product in Georgia, right? It's going to blend all of that together and um, give you a single number that's going to give you an idea of which states are basically more expensive than others to do business in with the way that the pricing strategy is set up. And then the other is just kind of a quick by month view of both expenses and DAs.
And we'll get in more in that detail with the end-to-end demo. There are also other reports for the other modules. So that'll all be in the last of the series when we do an end-to-end. So there'll be a lot more to show there if you can come back, or I think we can provide you with a recording if you can't make the date. So hopefully that answers that question. Anything else coming in from the audience?
That's it for now, but that's a perfect segue as far as, we'll be covering it in the future since we've got
Yeah.
2 upcoming webinars. I want to make sure we talk about that real quick. If you felt that this was a good use of your time, we encourage you to pre-register for the next 2 webinars in our Tradeparency series coming up in October. We're going to put the link in there in the chat, so you can just sign right up. We're going to be covering the topic of mastering compliance and risk management on October 3rd. And very exciting, on October 30th, we're going to be doing a full deep dive into the full solution. So you should be able to get a sense of putting all the pieces together, the numbers 2, 3, 4, 5 from that screen that Tracy was talking about. A reminder, we're going to be, as soon as this ends, there's going to be a link to a survey that pops up. We would love for you to take a moment and just fill that out. It gives us a really good sense of, was this valuable to you? What else can we show you in the future as far as Tradeparency or other products that we do? Because these webinars are for you. We want to make sure that we're, answering your questions, taking, your time and making it valuable. And so without, anything else, I just want to give a big thank you to Tracy and Andrew. Amazing job, really helpful. I've seen demos, a dozen times, but every time I watch you two, it's like learning, completely new over and over again. And there's
Thanks,
just
Limor.
so much to learn. And
Thanks,
that's
Limor. And thank you, Andrew. Really appreciate working with you on this. It's been a pleasure. So thanks.
Yep, absolutely, y'all. Enjoyed it.
all right. Well, that's a wrap from all of us here at Andavi Solutions. Thank you
Bye.
for joining us, and we hope to connect with you soon. Cheers.
Take care, everybody.